They cannot handle northern part of Nigeria. Northern part of Nigeria is actually occupied by Boko Haram, especially the half of country. Nigeria government, they never handle that kind of those areas. Buhari said, former President Buhari said, we did nothing.
Well, it's kind of difficult to control it, I would say, because you will need to start a civil war.
Right.
It will require people to take up weapons against each other and eradicate it. So you need to ask yourself: is a military, like an outright? If you want to defeat Boko Haram, you will need to really defeat it, because this Boko Haram has ground root support throughout northern Nigeria. Not so easy. Everybody's sons and daughters are involved in that, mainly sons. So this is it's more of an, well, okay, at the moment it manifests itself as a problem between Muslims and Christians in the south, but I get the idea that this is more a problem about the difference in speed of development, where the south is pretty affluent and the north is very much, well, more or less isolated. They don't have the same level of education, not the same facilities.
Yeah.
Basically, the north is just poor. And whether this is a religious conflict or an economic conflict, I wouldn't be surprised if there is actually a stronger economic impulse to unite in the Boko Haram than that it is a religious conflict.
But we must be carefully consider about Boko Haram, why they are expanding territory in Sub-Saharan, including Mali and surrounding several countries. They're expanding their territory, supported by local people. Why local people support Boko Haram? They have reason. So we need to consider for that kind of reason why they are expanding territory.
I didn't know that they were expanding into Mali, actually.
Yeah, Mali actually is also same situation, and those insurgency occupied half of their country.
That is a bad situation. So basically, they can hide outside of Nigeria.
Because of a bad government operation. Many people terribly
Mali
poor.
is just desert, man. Mali is very poor, and it's just a desert, so it's very difficult to...
Mali is different. They have long history for insurgency. Even if French military involved, but no solution they get.
Right. Well, Mali is just like it's just a big desert. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Furthermore, ISIS in the Middle East, people moving to the Sub-Saharan.
As a trading ground.
Including Libya and the other countries.
Well, IS is not doing well, of course. So those fighters, if they want to go somewhere, they probably better go to countries like Mali, etc. Because with a little money there, you can probably survive. So whatever they stole, if they bring that to a country like Mali, it will be quite easy to bribe some people into letting you stay and train there.
Somalia is the same.
Somalia, there is no authority. It's a failed state. So that country is 100% controlled by warlords and robbers and thieves. That's the only way you can make money there. There are no facilities there. it's a lawless country. So yeah, for Somalia, that is a clear case. There's nobody who can stop them there because well, they can't even control themselves.
Yeah, I understand African people, they want to doing business all around African countries, freely doing business. I understand. But many countries is under lots of political instability, not like South Africa. Usually many Botswana, but usually many countries under turmoil.
Right, but that is again. I think that is a matter of whether you look at where we are today or where we will be in 20, 30 years from now. The point is, I believe that why is this interesting is that because so many, well, everybody in Africa is convinced that if they don't change anything, they will not be able to benefit from the possibilities that they have. Then if they don't change the way that they rule their country, if they don't start to prepare for what will happen within the next 20, 30 years, then they will not benefit from it, and it will just go away, and it will be taken by outside powers who will basically force them out of their benefits, and so they need to do something. I think the bigger motivation to start this free trade union is the awareness that if Africa is divided, there will be no match for any Western nation because they are too weak. They will need to find support with each other. They will need to unite in order to be stronger against Western and Asian nations, for that matter.
Okay, I have more couple points to discuss with. First is, how do you think about Africa? They do not have any manufacturing industry, but resources, right? How do you think? What can benefit through free trade?
No, so again, Umasan, that's the same discussion. I think at the moment, and that's underlined by the little volume of trade between African nations, that they don't produce that much that they can export, other than natural resources. That's the case right now, but that will change, and that is almost certain that will change, because even if you don't have capital. Capital will move to Africa once the demography starts to kick in with the young population, and lots of people looking for jobs, and then this will be an ideal place where countries like Japan and China at that time will be able to produce and find new growth markets. So, how are they going to make sure that they are actually capable of reaping some of the fruits that can be picked at that time? So it's not about what it's now. Of course, there's not a lot of manufacturing. What is important now is that they prepare for the future. And if they don't unite, then there will be no match for China. There will be no match for the United States. There will be no match for the EU. So they need to do it in order to be stronger by the time that it really starts to matter.
There are actually many African countries is under corruption.
Yes.
Still, resources still by European countries because of African countries. They did corruption deal in the past. So those countries, they do not get any benefit from resources, except very few countries. How do you think?
No, that is true, and that is exactly what they're seeing. That's exactly what they see. Okay, we have squandered all the assets that we had in the past. That's why we need to do things differently. And they've been thinking, okay, how can we do things differently? How can we actually make sure that we are no longer just being we are no longer divided. We can be stronger. If you're going on a bilateral negotiation with the United States as a country like Cameroon or Uganda, one-on-one, then you are no match. It's very difficult to get good terms and conditions for a trade deal if you go by yourself. But if you're the African Union, if you have 2 billion people that you are negotiating with, then and you are united, you can operate as a free trade union. You have a much stronger position. So it's exactly for those reasons why you're mentioning, is that they are convinced that they need to do something in order to change the dynamics that have existed for more than 100 years in Africa.
Are you talking about 2 or 3 decades later, right?
Yeah, okay, so certainly at this moment they are not quite there yet, but they need to start developing an infrastructure. They need to start carefully build up institutions and ties so that they will be able to benefit from it. So it's not only intra-trade, but it's also building institutions. If they and once they start growing, it will be very beneficial for countries, for a lot of countries, for all countries. To stimulate growth, you need to have a well-functioning democracy that has proven to be the superior system in order to actually bring countries to a higher level. But if you start to build that up in 20, 30 years' time, it might be too late. You can start working on those now.
Oh, by the way, Rwanda, as you said, Kagame, Botswana is a young comer. The kind of country is they much more effort to building infrastructure. But this is just very exception out of 50 African countries. Only 2 or 3.
It's actually, if you look at infrastructure, building infrastructure is one thing, but maintaining infrastructure, that's another. So those roads, because of the weather situation and the heavy rains that fall around the equator, it's the roads that were in perfect condition that they can deteriorate to almost being unusable in the period of only a few years if you don't maintain the roads well. So that's an extra challenge that they have in order to keep roads. It's not easy to cut yourself through a forest if you want to develop a road, but then to maintain a road, that's another story.
Almost all countries, they do not have infrastructure, including electricity, road construction, anything else.
Well, okay, so I've not been to Central Africa and Chad, countries like that. Those are really the poorest countries. But if you go to actually in 1995, 96, of course there are areas where they don't have electricity, like Malawi. I remember they didn't have electricity. And there are certain areas in other countries where they don't have electricity, but those are relatively small. Most places do have electricity.
Are they?
Yeah. It's not that common to go through places where they don't have electricity.
I don't have statistics about that.
No, I don't have statistics too, but I don't. I'm quite certain through observation that most places, most people have access to electricity.
I thought the sufficient electricity providing countries only within 10 countries, like Egypt and South Africa, and some of those, not all. Around 10 countries.
What is
Tunisia is Libya, Botswana, Rwanda.
What is sufficient? That's the question.
No, Mozambique, I'm very skeptical.
Actually, Mozambique, I know that they have been developing, they were in the process of developing electricity infrastructure. I know that because I met the Italians who were building a highway from north to south through Mozambique. And
Yeah, I know that. Just only middle of the Mozambique, right? Not all over the country.
But they were investing heavily in building a beautiful, beautiful road. And I drove on it because it's really nice. It was really nice. I don't know what it is today.
But only part
the
of
problem
Mozambique,
was that
right?
Sorry?
Only part of Mozambique. In the center of Mozambique is very beautiful.
So basically, it's the part that actually connects Mozambique with Zimbabwe. It is a road that has been that is important to bring trucks through the country. And there are some mountains, and actually, if you don't have a good road there, you can almost transport nothing. So they developed a beautiful road there in order to make it possible for trucks to pass through the countries, to connect Malawi with...
Okay, I try to confirm. Why they try to consider for free trade? What kind of trade they are expecting for among African countries?
They're expecting that there will be a lot of investment in Africa within the next 20, 30 years. And they are afraid that if they do not get together, then they will not be able to negotiate effectively. So that means that the financing conditions, the trade conditions, will be very highly advantageous to the financiers. So they don't want to solely rely on outside investment, because if they have to do that, they have no negotiation power, they have no partner. And so what exactly it will be manufacturing, it will be anything that we have been doing with outsourcing to China and Southeast Asia. There will be investments like this will be done in Africa. What exactly it will be, that the time will tell. But it seems to be quite logical, I think, that Africa will be next.
I understand Africa will be next, but not so soon.
No, and I agree. This will take time, and actually, I think that Asia had a very big advantage relative to, for example, sorry, my phone starts to talk to me. This is Siri. I'm not really used to it. I'm not sure.
Say something?
Yeah. But your question was, but sorry, I lost it.
Okay, one more question I have. Do they have border?
Yes, certainly.
Very few countries, right?
Borders? No, they do.
Yeah, but because just they are trading among countries without any kind of border control. They deliver food and bring back and forth.
No, that's not the reality.
In Africa.
No, that's not the reality.
Just what you're talking about, South Africa or some kind of southern part of Africa country, they control border. But Middle Africa, they have no control for border control. But northern part, yes, they have strict control for border.
Yeah, but if then you.
But I tell you, Libya and southern part of the country, the middle country, no border.